nothing I can do about those dogs. So here we have an XM-18 3.0 inch knife, and the blade it comes with is the Skinner blade. So this is the design for that. And this one's in red with the original textured G10. Here we have the XM-18 3.5. So this is a 3.5 inch long blade. And this one comes in black with a blue grain scale. And these barrel spacers are not the original, and neither are the screws, but they're Hinderer. And here we have an XM-18 that doesn't fit in the screen. Sorry, this is not an XM-18, this is an XM-24. And what it means is that it's just a bigger model, and this is a 4-inch blade. So now you see them all here. So far I've used this one at a fire, 2 fires. This one I've been just using for various things. I haven't really used it yet. And this one I've used quite a bit because it's small, and the way it works is the smaller a knife, the more you tend to use it. It's the truth. So this one here, this is a really good utility blade. Let's see if I can get a comparison knife so you can see the thicknesses. So for that knife, I'd say everyone knows what a Benchmade bug out is. So here's a bug out. You know, they're pretty thin. They're less than 1/10 of an inch thick. Well, here's the thickness of the blade stock. You can see that. But this is quite a bit thicker. I think it's like 140 thousandths, or I don't know how you pronounce it, but 0.014 inches thick. And you can see the tip difference. And this tip is what makes this, to me, really nice. I know these are different knives. This is an axis lock, but this has an okay action. Like, here it is. The action's not bad. And you have flipper tab, and you can use the thumb studs if you want. That was 2-hand thumb stud. Here's a one finger thumb stud. Oh, it's really hard to do. But yeah. Pretty much untouched. And here's how it locks up. Let's look at it at the right angle here. So there's a lockup. It's nice and it's at a good point. It's a good point. Lots of life left in this. So now, this is probably your all-arounder. And something you'll notice right off the bat is it has a really nice action. That just happens with the bigger the knife goes, the nicer the action. It's the same thing. Flipper tab, 2-finger thumb stud, single. Oh, you can do it, but it's very hard for me. Yeah. Here's the knife. There's the thickness, and I can see that. This knife's a little bit customized with Hinderer stuff. I know it's some early lockup. Does it close? The funny thing is, if you hold it right, like there's no wiggle at all. It's gonna stay open. But I realize that, I mean, let's just check the action. That is some early lockup. Let's check it again. It's gonna last a while. Seem to be losing my morning light a little bit here, but yeah, here's the knife. Hinderer symbol. I like this knife. I'm just gonna straight up say it. This is my favorite one, and this is my favorite blade shape because I like robust tips. I guess one thing I never did is show. So here's this is called a Spanto. So this is what a Spanto versus a Skinner looks like. And here's the tip difference. And now just to compare this knife to a knife that's similar, I have here, this might not be the best comparison, the Benchmade Mini Adamas. I mean, the large one is very large, but similar performance, slightly shorter blade. Here's the blade stock thick differences. This is as thick as the other Hinderer, or a bit thinner. This is like 0.016 something inches, I don't know, something like that. But you can see both these knives are incredible. I'd say putting any knife against the Mini Adamas is tough because there's a good chance that this will outperform everything. But yeah, that's okay. Yeah, this is my favorite knife. Cannot even begin to explain all the reasons, but it just is. I mean, not that this matters, but it has good action. Your left-handed is good. It's a very carefree blade. 20 CV is good. I can probably use the crap out of this. I haven't yet, but I'm gonna get there. And now finally, the most surprising knife of all is this Bowie blade style XM-24. The first time I got my hands on this, I was just in shock. This is this is bronze anodized. This is just one huge blade. The only thing I have that's similar to this, and I'm just going to get it out right out the bat, is this thing, Cold Steel SR1. This knife has proven itself over time to be one of the greatest knives ever created. And these happen to be the same color, but here's your, I mean, these knives are the same, so I'll go right to the size comparison. Like, all Hinderers are the same. I can't even fit these in the screen, so I'll have to zoom out here. Okay. So, here they are. So, right off the bat, you notice the Hinderer has a shorter handle, but the blade lengths are the same. I don't know if you can see that. The problem is the Hinderer has this huge finger choil, so it reduces the cutting edge. But you could say, even though this is the clip and this is the Bowie, that's okay. There's some similarities. Like, this is, by the way, thicker, the Cold Steel, than this Bowie, believe it or not. But you can't tell the thickness because of the swedge. There, we'll zoom in. I've dug a lot with this knife in the past, and nothing's happened to it, so I can only imagine that this is just as tough. Especially when the blade steel is technically just as tough as well, because we're dealing with S35 versus 20 CV. So when you hold these knives up next to each other, they both look really, like, they both look really good. I can't even hold, there we go, that'll work. Yeah. By the way, if you're on a budget and you need one big folder for the bush, this is the one. There's nothing else. I mean, the Benchmade full-size Animas would also do it, but this is like a carefree, stronger lock than all these Hinderers. Triad lock. Something to try out. Cold Steel SR1. For those that have never seen one before. It's a good knife. Has a, yeah. Anyway, that's not about this. Thing is, we're talking about this Bowie here, made by Hinderer. And you're probably wondering what all the lanyards are for on each knife. It's because you can take the lanyard off, you can turn it into, well, you can take the knots off and you can turn it into a hand lanyard in case you're working outside where you don't want to lose it. So that's what I keep them on there for, intuitively. So let's check the lockup on this thing. This is probably the best lockup at the moment. Like, it's locked up to a point where it seems the most reliable, whereas like my Spanto locks up incredibly early, but like, you know, this, they'll both be okay. I mean, the way you hold a knife like this, as long as you're gripping it, your part of your hand here, it's pushing down. Like, my fingers either gonna be pushing here, or this part of my hand is gonna be pushing down on this, which will basically negate any problems you could have with the lock closing. And if you're cutting in the direction the knife cuts, will you have a problem? I don't think so. So, I mean, even now, there's a finger guard here to protect me. So yeah, this is solid. This is solid. I mean, one could argue that if you have early lockup, it means your knife will last a few years longer. Of the 15-year lifespan it's going to give you, 15 or more. And that's only if you use it hard every day. So it could go even longer than that. But long story short, this knife, I saw a video where it's like the XM-24 Bowie is considered a man's knife. Ridiculous. I mean, sure, whatever. You can call it whatever you want. It's just a knife, but let's just say it's a big knife. That's the best. That's the best description. Here's the action. Now the thing is, I use my index and thumb to open it with that, with the disc, but here's just my thumb. Oh, yeah. Others are better than me, and that's okay. So I can open it, but I can't really get it going. There's the opening sound. There's the closing sound. Let's get that car out of the way. All right. The bigger the blade, the better the action. All these knives here running on tri-way pivots, but that car is loud. Now, here's an example of the sounds. Ready? Now, you already know what's going to happen. This one doesn't really have a sound because it's small, and that's understandable. But look at these. So here's one, get it past the stop, and here's two. This is pretty good. This has a satisfying closing sound. And but anyway, my experience with this knife, I should talk about that. At a campfire, this is awesome. It's just pretty large in your pocket, but when this is in your pocket and this is deep in there, you know it's not coming out because of the size and heft. And you can do everything with it. It's quite, you know, I'd say a smaller knife is better for food, but when it comes to getting sticks or something, this is great. Like, you have a lot of handle real estate and the ability to chop down, which is kind of good. And with this one, I haven't done much with it, but I've used a lot of knives of this size, and I can tell you that it's in the middle of doing everything. This handles big knife tasks well. This is kind of a big knife. I mean, technically it is. I mean, 3.5-inch blade is the most common in almost any knife, even in fixed blades, so you can imagine what that's like. And for those that don't like small knives, I'm just going to say you probably haven't used a small knife enough. Because this thing, I've cut on cutting boards, boxes, sticks. In the pocket, it's so nice. Like, this blade, this type of blade, no one's ever scared of it when they see it. And it's so pocketable. This is actually a great all-around knife. It really is. It's something worth exploring if you've never tried a small. Thing is, like, is it worth it to buy this expensive 3-inch knife? I don't know. Is it worth it to buy an expensive bug out that's way cheaper than a Hinderer? I'd say yes, especially in this blade steel, because the cutting ability of this is just amazing, and this thing has seen heavy use, and the coating's holding up well, all that. Why have this? Well, basically I got rid of tons of knives that I wasn't using. Like, I got rid of a whole bunch, and I just basically upgraded to these Hinderers because, for one, I kind of like nice knives. For two, everyone says they're pretty awesome. And is everyone right? I would say yes. I mean, there is not a single... You could pick out flaws in this easy, but basically, when it comes to being a knife, there are no flaws. I mean, you can change the pivots to be nylon. You can, in here, underneath this bearing, you can change, like, this has ball bearing pivots, all of them. But if you go into the bush a lot, like, I'm going to put probably nylon in this, or bronze, phosphor bronze. What's going to happen is you won't get dirt between the knife and the titanium. But this is good for inside. Like, ball bearing pivots are fine. WD-40 will clean up the problem, soap and water. But these knives, like, I have to give a big thumbs up. Not only are they fun to use, but they are good to use. My only thing that I can say that I don't like about these knives is with this one it's okay. With this one that's not bad. But this choil is too big for this knife. It gets in the way of cutting large things like sticks, everything. And you have to reposition your blade. That is annoying. And that's where all these knives, like, see this? Nice little choil. Lots of cutting edge. Not gonna have a problem. Same thing here. Choil's kind of the way. Lots of cutting edge. You're not gonna have a problem cutting like rags or rope or something like that. And mini Adamas. This is probably my third favorite knife of all time. Same thing. Same thing. Very small choil. I mean, I get the finger choil is there to help you cut with lighter tasks, but big knives like this, you're not going to use them for that. And even if you can, that's great, but for most things, I mean, you're not going to everyday carry this in your pocket for cutting everyday things. Like, this is just too big. So I think that should be an option, or mostly disappear, and then some people can just have the choil. But yeah, if I was to break up these three great knives into categories of use, This is the one you'd probably carry the most because it just makes sense. It'll cut everything. It'll cut all your packages, cans, whatever you want to do. It'll even cut wire, whatever. I've used this steel to cut a lot of things. This one is just your all-arounder. If you can't pick, go with an XM-18 3.5 versus the XM-18 3.0. And the XM-24, it's just a big knife. So if that's what you like, that's what you like. But this definitely shines in the outdoor territory, where a bigger knife is just better next to your fixed blade, which, let's face it, if you're outside, you should be carrying a fixed blade. If you're in the bush, it's just the way to go. But yeah, here they are. Hinderer knives. Never thought I'd get to the point where I own them. And now that I have, I see what all the hype is about. It's pretty easy to hype up something that just works so well. You know? Like when something's good, something's good. Just highly recommend. I wonder if I can stand it like this. Probably not. No, it's not going to work. But I'll hold them for you so you can see. I think that if everybody that wanted a pocket knife, if you could just afford to go to this, I think you'd be done. Those are just my thoughts. But yeah, I hope that helps people in picking a Hinderer.